Hi guys, today we're going to go over the evolution of K-12 distance education and virtual schools. Come and journey through time and place to witness the revolutionary genesis of virtual schools. From print-based methods to web-based methods with audio and video packed neatly in between. Experience the emerging technology of the 20th century that have led to skyrocketing numbers of 21st century digital learners. This is interesting. The primary purpose of K-12 distance education has remained fairly static for 100 years. The purpose? Expanding access to curriculum and providing educational choices. Connect the dots between independent study movement and virtual learning and discover some of the perennial issues, effective practices, and lessons learned that remain relevant for online education and policy practice today. We're going to go through a series of firsts, the emergence of several technologies over the last century. The first one is instructional film that came about in Rochester, New York public schools. Did you ever watch any film strip movies when you were a kid in school? I remember watching a film about germs in health class, and I liked the clicky sound that the projector made. I found that it was an effective teaching method, especially if there were guided notes available. In 1923, supervised correspondence studies emerged. The key difference between post-secondary and K-12 independent study programs lies in supervisory roles. Back then, K-12 models typically leveraged the local high school to secure the lessons, provide time during the school day for study, supervise student work, and return the lessons to the correspondence center. Now, in today's world, we would call that independent study, and there are a whole bunch of different types of independent study available, from packets that are print packets to online versions of the same type of thing. Have you ever taken a correspondence class or independent study? I took a BYU independent study psychology class, and I liked the flexibility, but I did not like the lack of instructor interaction. In 1930, we have the emergence of educational radio. The Ohio School of the Air was the first educational radio system. However, the Wisconsin School of the Air was the nation's longest running educational radio system, from 1930 to 1975. The strengths of the radio programming included active involvement, imagining, opportunities for community participation through contests, and forging personal connections between students and radio instructors. Elements of audio-based distance education remain in force today, as virtual schools provide community opportunities and seek to strengthen personal relationships between instructor and student. How do you leverage community in your classrooms? Educational televisions made its debut in 1933. The first educational television program emerged at the University of Iowa's TV station. This is really interesting. The station aired 15-minute segments aimed at groups of children, such as Boy Scouts, to help them earn merit badges. Almost 400 programs were filmed between 1933 and 1939. The 1970s ushered in the advent of educational television programs such as Sesame Street on PBS and many supplemental in-school programs. Today, full televised courses for secondary students are rare. More commonly, high school students enroll in telecourses sponsored by community colleges for dual enrollment credit. Which educational TV programs do you remember watching as a child? I loved Carmen Sandiego, and now you will have Rockapella's Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego's theme song in your head for the rest of the day. In 1956, we see telecourse study emerging. PBS created an adult learning service, telecourses, which provided network feeds to post-secondary schools. Telecourses peaked in 2001, but they had 450,000 enrollments a year. PBS discontinued it, but Annenberg Learner, which was its successor, continues to license video content to schools to use in courses and also provides professional development content for K-12 teachers. My dad used to watch these crazy French programs with a crazy French professor that would write on the board and conjugate verbs. That was my experience with those ALS courses. Next, okay, I just restarted it. Hold on. Okay. Almost there. All right, next we have airborne instruction, 1961. Purdue University actually launched the Midwest program on airborne television instruction using terrestrial transmitters, funded with $16 million from the Ford Foundation. This provided supplemental instruction to K-12 learners in 6 states. However, tech and policy issues led to the defunding of this program, and in 1968 all of their programs were converted to a videotape library. Satellite and fiber optic technology made terrestrial transmitters obsolete. Computer-based learning. In 1965, there were 2 experiments going on, one with Plato 3 at the University of Illinois and one in a fourth grade classrooms at Stanford University. They started providing computer-assisted learning, which continued in the 1980s. This typically took place in a computer lab where students were supervised in individualized learning. A lot of the multimedia tools that emerged during this time period have helped set the stage for today's virtual school movement. What is your earliest computer memory? I remember going to the library in elementary school and getting computer punch cards with real-life hanging chads. Audio conferencing in 1967. There were some statewide educational telephone networks such as Wisconsin's ETN and the Learn Alaska Network. This was set up to provide programming for K-12 and audiences in remote areas. Sadly, the audio conferencing component of Learn Alaska Network was its only successful component. However, today, audio is a really important component of online courses. We have podcasting and digital audio. Those are in use at all educational levels to provide supplemental access to educational content. How have you used audio in the classroom as a learner or as a teacher? Next, we have educational satellite instruction. 10 years after the first satellite was placed in orbit, they started telecasting in services for rural K-12 educators. Educational satellite instruction emerged in the 1970s as a method of providing high-quality video instruction without terrestrial transmitters. Educational satellite networks replaced educational satellite instruction. But guess what? We're going to see that that becomes obsolete fairly quickly. Computer-mediated communication. So, the development of Usenet in 1980, SMTP email, and the Internet Protocol Suite in 1982 made possible the standardized exchange of text information and communications over the Internet between computers. Computer conferencing also emerged, allowing computer users to interact in real time. In fact, the University of Michigan staged a role-playing simulation of the Arab-Israeli conflict that was really fascinating. Today, many of the community-centered philosophies from the 1990s continue in good present-day virtual schools, that real-time collaboration and connecting. When did you first send and receive an email? Has it always been part of your life, or do you remember when? I sent and received my first email in 1985 with an mstar.net email address. Satellite network instruction. The first satellite network created to serve K-12 education was founded in 1985. It actually provided 150 receive sites in 12 states, offering 18 high school courses and professional development. This was developed at the Education Service Center number 20 in San Antonio, Texas. This was an example of the first modern-day federal program for K-12 distance education from the U.S. Department of Education. Now, satellite educational networks can't match broadband's offerings, such as providing high bandwidth internet connectivity needed by many schools for online and blended learning. As a result, most have ceased operations. Microwave ITFS network instruction. So Maine started two-way video via microwave with microwave broadcasts or compressed video to outlying sites in 1989. Oregon's EdNet also came online that same year, and the Utah Education Network began in 1991. They used a microwave backbone and compressed video to other sites. However, closed circuit began replacing microwave systems, which have ceased operation in large numbers. And if you guys haven't taken a look at the resources available on the Utah Education Network site, it's well worth your time to do that. In 1993 is the emergence of web-based instruction. There were several virtual school experiments underway. One was actually the electronic high school from the Utah State Office of Education. Nebraska, Hawaii, and Florida soon followed. These electronic schools combined internet tools such as email, chat, and FTP with computer-based content to deliver mainly text-based instruction. Worksheets slapped into a computer screen. It was really just the delivery method that changed. Instead of handing it to a kid, they saw it on the computer screen. There were also multiple private schools and virtual high schools that gave way to virtual schools serving students K through 12. Today, there are profiles of online and blended schools for all 50 states. What is your experience with online learning? What characteristics do you like and dislike, and why? So let's go over a present-day status report. Enrollments in virtual learning exploded in the 2000s with over 500,000 students in technology-based distance education courses in U.S. public schools. Today, there are over 1 million full-time, fully online enrollments in virtual schools. What is your opinion of virtual schools? That matters, and let me tell you why. There are a variety of different virtual school types. A good way to classify those is by organizational control. We have the independent study high school programs at universities like BYU Independent Study, statewide programs like Electronic High School, full-time public virtual charter schools like Mountain Heights Academy, my school, public district virtual schools like Provo's eSchool, private virtual schools like Harmony Ad and Keystone, and then for-profit public virtual schools like Utah Virtual Academy and Utah Connections Academy. There are some perennial issues in K through 12 and distance learning, or K through 12 distance and virtual learning: government funding and policy making, access and equity. Schools must legally provide access regardless of ability or disability. Societal attitudes. This is really interesting. A poll of 1,000 adults showed mixed but evolving attitudes toward online learning. However, the public strongly supports students spending the day at a bricks and mortar school, even if it affects academic outcomes. There are concerns about education market forces, worrying that for-profit vendors are driving policy, and there are concerns about student outcomes. Most studies show that online learners are held harmless and perform as well or better than bricks and mortar counterparts. However, there are higher attrition rates and completion rates are much lower. So what does that mean for us? Reflections on the future of K through 12 distance education. Government funding for EdTech has changed the playing field by providing unparalleled access in teacher training and technology. However, a lack of common metrics makes it hard to measure student and program success. Some questions: should the focus be on expanding access or improving results? I think it should be on both. Can online and blended really address equity concerns? I think so, especially if it's used to help underperforming students catch up and graduate. Are full-time elementary level online learning programs good for students? The results have been mixed on that one. I think it refers to how much time the parents are spending on the other side of the computer working with their students. Are online and blended programs good for schools? I say yes, especially when you can meet individual student needs with online learning. Here we have a list of the references and resources that were used in the compilation of this presentation. What is the takeaway for you? What is your view of online learning? Is blended learning where we're going in the future? I think it probably is. Will it completely replace online learning? I don't know. It may be like the emergence of a technology that something comes along that's better and makes it obsolete. I think there will always be a place for fully online for some of the student population, at least that we work with. But I think blended learning, which is a mixture of bricks and mortar and online, will serve a greater majority of students. So I hope you learned a lot.